Before I made this video, two things were true. I'd never been behind the wheel of a supercar, and I had never driven on a track. But when Ford invited me to do both of those things simultaneously, I said, hell yeah. The Ford GT is an insane looking car. This new model was developed in secret, and it was a surprise to many, including Ford employees, when it was unveiled at the 2015 Auto Show. It was designed in commemoration of the older Ford GT that won the 1966 Le Mans. This thing is basically a street legal race car. It's got a 3.5 liter twin turbo V6 that pumps a whopping 647 horsepower. I'd wager this thing does 0 to 60 in under 3, but I didn't do any scientific tests. This new GT is a sexy beast. These lines and curves and slopes, the nostrils, headlights and taillights, all this carbon fiber. The GT is an insane, futuristic looking car. And speaking of carbon fiber, it's everywhere on this car. Pretty much the whole body is carbon fiber. I think it'd be pretty sick if Ford made one that exposed the carbon fiber weaving all over the car, but if I had to pick my favorite color out of the bunch, blue would be my choice. I got to spend the better portion of a day with a handful of GTs, and what a day it was. Here's what went down. First, I hopped in a GT and took it on a track. And remember what I said in the beginning of the video, and there I was, by myself, in the driver's seat of a $500,000 sports car on a track in the middle of Utah. I was nervous for sure, but I was also excited. We were told not to go above 40 on the track because this initial ride was just to familiarize us with the car because we'd be doing a lot more driving. Detailed, intricate instructions totally made me feel like I was in a video game tutorial. And let's say the car was kind of like using Game Shark. It did so well around turns. The handling was unbelievable, and this thing is fast. I was using paddle shifters to change gears, and notice me white knuckling that steering wheel in that classic 10 and 2 position. I was being cautious. I didn't want to go too crazy because this thing was not mine, but I definitely had some fun. In my opinion, doing anything in the real world is better than doing it in a controlled environment. Driving the GT on the streets of Utah made me feel like I was some sort of badass super character on a TV show. The car is a head turner. It's powerful, it's loud, and it looks like it could have been birthed from an alien mothership. So I drove about 40 minutes out to a station that Ford set up in the mountains. We basically just parked up there, drank some water, and chatted about the car, and then we drove back. Driving a supercar on the road, if you've ever done it, is ridiculous because you know that you can outrun just about anything that comes your way, and you could do it in style. The final activity made me nauseous. I got really car sick. I sat in the passenger seat of the GT while a professional Ford driver ripped this thing through the track. He flew. He was hitting turns at 80, and we went as fast as 130 plus miles per hour. By far the fastest I've ever been in a car. And this dude is a really skilled driver. He knew exactly when to cut the wheel for a turn, when to accelerate through the apex of a curb. It was almost like he was a jockey and the GT was his horse. I felt like throwing up when we were done with this. Just thinking about this makes me nauseous. But I didn't throw up because I drank a bunch of water right when we were done. But damn, that was intense and awesome all at the same time. The Ford GT is a beautiful machine. Let's talk about the car a little bit more. There's a few modes that this thing runs in: VMAX, wet, normal, sport, and track mode for various driving situations. And it's all digital: the speedometer, the whole instrument cluster, no physical gauges in the GT. And get this, the car will lower and raise depending on which mode you've selected. It's kinda nuts. I had the chance to sample the car's sound system, and to my surprise, it wasn't as good as I thought it'd be. On the one hand, who cares? You're buying a supercar for the performance, not for sound. But if you're spending $500,000, you'd expect it to sound good, wouldn't you? But then again, you have this. as far as the interior goes, it's well organized, minimalist, and cramped. It's a supercar. Ford GT. Do it. You're gonna feel like you're in a rocket ship on wheels. Thank you so much for watching today's video. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like and consider subscribing by hitting that subscribe button.